Dharmajnanadhipissaha Kalau nashtadrishamesh Puranarko dhunodita. This is Grantaraj Srīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 10, entitled The Process of Creation. And today we're looking at text number 12. Vishwam vai brahma tanmatram samsthitam Vishnu mayaya Ishwarena Parichinnam Kalena Avyaktamurtina Vishwam vai brahmatan matram Sansthitam Vishnu mayaya Ishwarena Parichinnam Kalena Avyaktamurtina. Ladies? Vishwam vai brahmatan matram Samsitam Vishnu mayaya Ishwarena parichinnam Kalena vyaktamurtina Vishwam vai brahmatan matram Samsitam Vishnu mayaya Ishwarena parichinnam Kalena vyaktamurtina Vishwam vai brahmatan matram Samsitam Vishnu mayaya Ishwarena parichinnam Kalena vyaktamurtina. Vishwam, the material phenomenon. Vai, certainly. Brahma, the supreme. Tanmatram, the same as. Samsthitam, situated. Vishnu mayaya, by the energy of Vishnu. Ishwarena, by the personality of Godhead. Parichinnam, separated. Kalena, by the eternal time. Avyakta, unmanifested. Murtina, by such a feature. Translation: this cosmic manifestation is separated from the Supreme Lord as material energy by means of Kala, which is the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Lord. It is situated as the objective manifestation of the Lord under the influence of the same material energy of Vishnu. Please repeat. This cosmic manifestation is separated from the Supreme Lord as material energy by means of Kala, which is the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Lord. It is situated as the objective manifestation of the Lord under the influence of the same material energy of Vishnu. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. As stated previously by Narad before Vyasadev in Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 5, text 20. Anybody can bring that up?
It's up here.
Okay. Well, I can't read it. Idam hi vishvam bhagavani vetaro. Idam hi vishvam bhagavani vetaro yato jagat sthana nirodha sambhavaha tadhi swayam veda bhavam tathapi te pradesha matram bhavatah pradarshatam. And that means the Supreme Lord, Personality of Godhead, is Himself this cosmos, and still He is aloof from it. From Him only has this cosmic manifestation emanated. In Him it rests, and unto Him it enters after annihilation. Your good self knows all about this. I have given only a synopsis. And there we have another purport also. For a pure devotee, the conception of Mukunda, Lord Sri Krishna, is both personal and impersonal. The impersonal cosmic situation is also Mukunda because it is the emanation of the energy of Mukunda. For example, a tree is a complete unit, whereas the leaves and branches of the tree are emanated parts and parcels of the tree. The leaves and branches of the tree are also the tree. But the tree itself is neither the leaves nor the branches. The Vedic assertion that the whole cosmic creation is nothing but Brahman means that since everything is emanating from the Supreme Brahman, nothing is apart from Him. Anybody know that Shruti mantra offhand? Sarvam khaluidam Brahma. All this is Brahma, that's what it means. Similarly, the part and parcel hands and legs are called the body, but the body as the whole unit is neither the hands nor the legs. The Lord is the transcendental form of eternity, cognition, and beauty. Not bliss, beauty. And thus the creation of the energy of the Lord appears to be partially eternal, full of knowledge, and beautiful also. The captivated conditioned souls, under the influence of the external energy Maya, are therefore entrapped in the network of the material nature. They accept this as all in all, for they have no information of the Lord, who is the primeval cause. Nor have they information that the parts and parcels of the body, being detached from the whole body, are no longer the same hand or leg as when attached to the body. Similarly, a godless civilization detached from the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is just like a detached hand or leg. Such parts and parcels may appear like hands and legs, but they have no efficiency. The devotee of the Lord, Srila Vyasadeva, knows this very well. He is further advised by Srila Narada to expand the idea so that the entrapped conditioned souls may take lessons from him to understand the Supreme Lord as the primeval cause. According to the Vedic version, the Lord is naturally fully powerful, and thus his supreme energies are always perfect and identical with him. Both the spiritual and the material skies and their paraphernalia are emanations of the internal and external energies of the Lord. External energy is comparatively inferior, whereas the internal potency is superior. The superior energy is living force, and therefore she is completely identical, but the external energy, being inert, is partially identical. But both the energies are neither equal to nor greater than the Lord, who is the generator of all energies. Such energies are always under his control, exactly as electrical energy, however powerful it may be, is always under the control of the engineer. The human being and all other living beings are products of his internal energies. Thus, the living being is also identical with the Lord, but he's never equal to or superior to the personality of Godhead. The Lord and the living beings are all individual persons. With the help of the material energies and the living beings are also creating something. But none of their creations are equal or superior to the creations of the Lord. The human being may create a small playful Sputnik and may throw it into outer space, but that does not mean that he can create a planet like the Earth or Moon and float it in the air as the Lord does. Men with a poor fund of knowledge claim to be equal to the Lord. They are never equal to the Lord. This is never to be. The human being, after attaining complete perfection, may achieve a large percentage of the qualities of the Lord. Okay, I'm getting dizzy. Up to 78%. But it is never possible to surpass the Lord or to become equal to him. In a diseased condition only, the foolish being claims to be one with the Lord and thus becomes misled by the illusory energy. The misguided living beings therefore must accept the supremacy of the Lord and agree to render loving service to him. For this they have been created. Without this, there cannot be any peace or tranquility in the world. Srila Vyasadeva is advised by Srila Narada to expand this idea in the Bhagavatam. In the Bhagavad Gita also, the same idea is explained. Surrender fully unto the lotus feet of the Lord. That is the only business of the perfect human being. Okay, so the purport here says, as stated previously by Narad before Vyasadeva, which we just read, idam hi vishvam bhagavan ivetaraha. This unmanifested world is the self-same personality of Godhead, but it appears to be something else beyond or besides the Lord. It appears so because of its being separated from the Lord by means of Kala. It is something like the tape-recorded voice of a person who is now separated from the voice. As the tape recording is situated on the tape, so the whole cosmic manifestation is situated on the material energy and appears separate by means of Kala. The material manifestation is therefore the objective manifestation of the Supreme Lord and exhibits his impersonal feature so much adored by impersonalist philosophers. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur-unmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manopishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yutaparikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Madgavirapi Gopala Swikuryat Kripaya Yadi, Tadaiva Sampayaha Pitva, Hrishyayus Tat Priyajanaha. Vishvam Vai Tat Brahmatan Matram Samsthitam Vishnu Mayaya, Ishwarena Parichinnam Kanena Avyakta Murthina. The cosmic manifestation is separated from the Supreme Lord as material energy by means of Kala, which is the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Lord. It is situated as the objective manifestation of the Lord under the influence of the same material energy of Vishnu. So we're just continuing our discussion of creation, and creation, any discussion of creation necessarily begins with a discussion of time, because as this verse says very clearly, it is time that distinguishes the material energy from the spiritual energy. That's why we said yesterday, time is conspicuous by its absence in the spiritual world. So the time factor is an impersonal aspect of the Supreme as Brahman, but it is directly in touch with Vishnu Maya, that means Mahamaya. And therefore it seems to be separate from the Lord. Ishwarena Parichannam. So, we have several comments here. I'm going to begin today with Sridhar Swami. Swavyatirikta srijyabhavam darshayam kalasya srishtinamittatam darshayati vishwamiti. This verse is meant to show how time is the agent of creation and how its own existence is beyond that, or how the Lord's existence is beyond that. Vishnu Maya samsthitam samhritam brahmatan matram sadvishvam. The universe exists by as the arrangement of Lord Vishnu's Maya, but it is the impersonal form collected together in terms of matter. Ishwarena kartra kalina nimittena parichinnam pratak prakashitam. It's separately manifested or displays itself separately through the agency of time as the separating agent. Ishwarena kartra, but the Lord is overseeing all this, as we heard yesterday. Mayadhyakshena prakriti. Avyakta murti swarupam yasyeti swato nirvisheshata darshita. He concludes his comment here that avyakta murti means the essential form of the Lord as Brahman, spiritual, yasyeti swato nirvisheshata darshata. So it's showing its impersonality still, even though it's manifested in a material way. So how do we say that the Lord is the same as his creation? How is that? Yeah, parts and parcels. Everything in the world is part and parcel of the Lord, and the world itself is also parts and parcels of the Lord. But there are two ways to look at this. We have those who see this material energy as a transformation of Vishnu, and those who see this material energy as the mistake or the dream, the illusion of Vishnu. These are called the Vaishnavas and the impersonalists, or the Mayavadis in particular. So Vyasadev's teaching is not that this Vivartavad, as Shankara says. Shankar's philosophy is called disparagingly Mayavad. What does Mayavad mean? Illusionism. The philosophy that it's all an illusion. And another way to put it is Vivartavad. It's a mistake. It's bewilderment. So that's not the case, actually. Vyasadeva instead says this world is in fact real. But it is a parinama. What does parinama mean? Transformation of the Lord. And Prabhupada very brilliantly gives this example from the 1970s. We don't have tape recordings anymore. We have digital recordings. But the same idea is there. If you're listening to Prabhupada in 2025, it's just as if you were listening to Srila Prabhupada in 1975, half a century ago. Because his separated energy is recognizably the same as him, very clearly. And yet it's not the same. So this is Prabhupada's explanation on this verse. Jiva Goswami in Krama Sandarbha says, Kalam achaste yattu lakshanam gyapakam guna vyatikarena kriyarupam tat parinamadi purvya paryanusandhanena akriyate akara bhedair lakshyate yaha sakala ityarthaha. Vishnurishwarasya mayaya srishtyadi shaktya sahalinam brahmani Vishnau eva tadatmyopapannam sat ishwarena tat prabhavarupena kalina parichinnam pratakritam ityarthaha. So as Bhanu Swami understands this verse, this universe which is firmly established by the Maya of Lord Vishnu, whose cause is the Lord, is divided into various planets and living beings by time, whose form is invisible and which is a representative of the Lord's power. Now, that's not Jiva Goswami speaking, that's Bhanu Swami speaking. That's his liberal translation of this verse. Jiva Goswami says, time in its active form, akara, is known by the transformation of gunas. Time is defined by differences in form through examining previous and later changes. We heard about that yesterday. Time, as we define it, is itself a way to measure changes that are affected in things by this eternal and impersonal and little bit vague time factor. So all we can do is measure time, and all we know about time is the measurement. We don't know really time itself. It's elusive. So time is defined by differences in form through examining previous and later changes. The universe, one with Lord Vishnu, by creation Shakti of the Lord, becomes differentiated by time in the form of the Lord's power. Okay? So This we understand. The Lord's time factor is what is separating the spiritual world from this world. This world, everything is subject to the influence of time. And time influences us in multiple ways, as we discussed yesterday. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Yo Vishwam Parichinnati Sakala Ityaha Vishwamiti. This verse explains that time divides up the universe. Vishnor Mayaya Shaktya Samyak Sthitam Idam Vishwam Brahmatan Matram Karanam Yasyatat Ishwarena Ishwara Prabhava Rupena Kalena Parichinnam Etavad iti Paricheda Vishayikratam Avyakta Murtiryasya iti Swato Nirvisheshata Darshita. He's repeating in his own words what Sridhar Swami has already explained. This verse explains that time divides up the universe, but the energy of the Lord, by the energy of the Lord, Maya, this universe is established firmly, samsthitam. Its cause is the Lord. It is divided by time, a form of the Lord's influence. That's a good way to put it. Divided means that it is divided variously as described above. Its form is invisible. What's form?
The influence of the Lord's energy.
Yeah, the time itself. Time doesn't have a form. Avyakta murti. Its murti is avyakta. We can say, we were discussing this, because sometimes we say time personified was seen to accompany the Lord, or such things. So time can be personified. Everything is personified ultimately. But here we have this, his form is invisible, avyakta murti. Murti is there, but it's avyakta murti, an unmanifested form. This explains the term nirvisheshata, which we heard in the previous verse. What does nirvishesh mean? Nothing specific about it. You can't say anything about it. There were two terms used, as I recall yesterday. One of them is nirvishesha, and what's the other one? Apratishtita. It's not clearly established, and it's also not specific. But at the same time, it is Purushas. And in fact, as the cause of this cosmic manifestation is also nothing but Atmanam, himself. Here we go. Proof, right here in the Bhagavatam, of the Parinamavada. Otherwise, how could he possibly say this? If it's an illusion, how is it himself? Not possible. So Shankaracharya is just cheating. God bless Shankaracharya. He's actually a great devotee of Lord Krishna in particular. He likes Krishna more. But he had a thankless task to perform. He was advised to bewilder people with a philosophy that resembles Buddhism in the Kali Yuga. And he took birth as a Brahmin in Kalari in Kerala, modern-day Kerala. It's an interesting thing. I went there recently with Sridhar Srinivas Prabhu. And we were both struck by the fact that it's kind of a neglected state. Doesn't seem anybody's really paying much attention to this place. And, they don't even cut the lawn, and it's like nothing happening there. It's such a great, historic, significant place, but anyway, I guess this is the influence of Kali Yuga, because, especially in South India, people are more interested in Tanga Malegai Chennai silks. Every 20 feet, there's a billboard advertising gold. And, these women who are dressed up to look like the goddess of fortune, all decked out in Chennai silks and also, gold jewelry and everything. This is what occupies people's heads in South India more. And Kerala, they're also occupied by beef parathas and Christian churches and, pure sense gratification in the name of religion. This is not, it would be an honor to call it Kaitava Dharma. I'm going to call it Kaitava Chala. Because seventh canto, we hear from Narad Muni, Yudhishthira hears from Narad Muni, There are different kinds of perversions of dharma, right? What are they? Vidharma, paradharmascha. What is the rest of the verse? Anybody know? I can't remember either. But upama dharma, that's, well, let's just go in order. We have vidharma means something that looks like it's dharma, but it's actually a dharma. And paradharma means it is dharma, but it's not your dharma. It's somebody else's dharma. That's another cheating. What's the next line? Dharma bhasa means it is a semblance of religion. It's a shadow, like we say chaya bhakti or bhakti abhasa, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. We're practicing probate bhakti. We're sincerely trying to be devotees, but we're not quite mature yet. And so what we're practicing is actually a shadow of bhakti, dharma bhasa. So people in this world, they also practice imperfect but sincere religion, which is a shadow of the real thing. And upadharma means upamadharma. It's analogous to religion, but not really religion. And continue. Chala dharma, that's out and out cheating. You're calling it dharma, but it's actually just cheating. So, yeah. Anyway, it's probably a mix of all these things. Christianity, for Hindus who become Christians, this is, I think, they kind of fall into these categories. But really it gets pretty perverse. So Shankaracharya was great soul, great devotee of Lord Vishnu, and particularly Lord Krishna. What does he say? What does he appreciate about Krishna in particular? He says such things as Kaivalyam navanitaharam anaharam bhuvanaharam. He is one and the same, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Anantarupam. But what does he eat? Kaivalyam navanita aharam. Ahara means to eat. Actually, ahara means, what do we know from Upadeshamrita? Ahara. Ati ahara. Too much ahara. What does it mean?
Overeating.
Overeating. Yeah. So he overeats. Navanita. Navanita means fresh butter. Actually, ahara, it means ahrit. Aharati means to take something into yourself. This is what we all want to do. This is the very nature of, lust and greed and all the things that impel us to act in this material world. We want to just absorb the whole world and consume it all and exploit it all and enjoy it all. So Krishna does this. He's uniquely qualified to do that, actually, unlike us. But what is his favorite thing to eat? Navanita. Navanita choram. So, with the famous verse, Vraje prasiddham navanita choram, gopa angananam chitakula choram, aneka janmarshita papa choram, chodagraganyam purusham namami. He's eating butter and he steals butter actually. Navanita choram. So he steals butter and he steals gopis' garments and he steals away all of our sinful reactions. Therefore, he's the greatest of all thieves. Bill Mangala Thakur has also said, similarly, Payaha suchaura. Paya? South Indians know what this means. Payas. Bengalis also know. Milk. So Payas suchaura. He's an expert thief of milk. Very expert. And Paradara chaura. Paradara. Just like paradharma, but this is paradara. What does dara mean? Wife. He steals other people's wives. Payasu choda, paradara choda. Stri vastra choda, and he steals their garments also. Sura vriksha choda, he steals trees from demigods. Correct? We know this. Sura vriksha choda. Sangsara choda, he steals away material existence if you're a sincere devotee. Sakalati choda, but ultimately he steals away everything, even if you're not a devotee. Mrityu sarva harashchaham. No? So, Shriyaha pate tvam navanita choram. My dear butter thief, this is you, O Lord of Lakshmi. All right, so Kaivalyam navanitaharam anaharam. But he doesn't eat anything at all because he's God. God doesn't need to eat, right? No need for eating. In terms of tattva, we can look at God in terms of tattva. We can look at God in terms of rasa. If we are looking at God in terms of rasa, rasovaisa, as the Taittiriya Upanishad tells us, then we want to hear about all his activities such as eating and his eating, his sleeping, his mating, his defending. We want to hear all these things about Krishna. But if we look at God in terms of tattva, and especially in terms of impersonal tattvas like this time factor, then God has no need to eat at all. He doesn't eat. Once I was passing through the airport. This is in India. They're much more respectful in America. But everywhere I go, I carry the deity with me. And so the man wanted to see what's in the bag. So I showed him, I opened everything up. He wants to open up the box. And I said, please be careful because Bhagavan is sleeping in the box. And then he just said, God doesn't sleep. This is the conception of a mundaner. They have no entrance into this higher realm of subtlety in which the Lord enjoys sleeping, and in which the devotee also enjoys the Lord sleeping. And so they can't perceive these things. So anaharam means he doesn't eat anything at all. But in addition to that, what else does Shankaracharya say? Kaivalyam navanitaharam anaharam bhuvanaharam. What does that mean? Bhuvanaharam. Well, you can look at this in two ways also. If you look at it in terms of Leela, then Krishna ate the dirt. And Mother Yashoda, all the Balaram and everybody ganged up against him and said, Krishna's eaten dirt. They all went and told. They tattled, as we say in kid language. They tattled on Krishna, and Krishna had to fess up eventually. But initially he said, no, I didn't eat any butter or any dirt. He said, if you don't believe me, pashyame mukhamaishwaram. Just look in my mouth and see my wonder. This is in the Bhāgavatam. Pashyame. So Yashoda Maharani did that, and she was completely short-circuited by what she saw, because this was the arrangement of Yogamaya, that Yogamaya decided to initiate this pastime just to create some flavor. This is in the world of Leela, Rasa, Rasa Swadanam, Rasovaisa, Akhila Rasamritamurti. These are all the things that we hear in the Shastras. So on that level, Krishna is eating dirt. But Bhuvanaharam, on a more cosmic level, impersonal level also, what does the Lord eat? What does Bhuvana also mean? The whole world. He eats planets. Instead of, once in Vrindavan, I was talking to the shopwala where we buy the oil, right? K.C. Pandey. And he was asking me a question about Balagopal form of the Lord. He said, what's he holding in his hands? I say, well, some say that he's holding butter. Other people say he's holding laddu or laglu. Narugopal means that only, right? In Bengali. Yeah, I think so. Laglu, right? So, yeah, Nani Gopal, Naru Gopal. But so I told him, some people saying laddu, other people saying butter, some people say laglu instead. Brajavasis, they have a certain characteristic way. So he dismissed all of it. He said, they're all wrong. He said, he's holding the world in his hands. Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Yeah, couldn't be so. Holding the world. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm not gonna comment on Brajavasis can think and say and do whatever they want to. We have to be very careful with them. But anyway, certainly it's quite possible for him to pop worlds into his mouth instead of laddus, and he can munch on them and eat them. It's quite possible for him to do this. All right, so this is Shankaracharya's appreciation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, particularly in his form as Lord Krishna, Sri Krishna. But Shankaracharya has a duty to perform, as we all do, and Shankaracharya is very diligent. He took birth as a Brahmin in Kalari, and he was preaching this philosophy that is Prachandam Bauddham Uchyate. What does that mean? Prachandam Bauddham. Yeah, veiled Buddhism, you can say. Kind of, Buddhism masquerading as Hinduism. But at least his purpose was to bring people back to accept the authority of the Vedas. Why is that so important, that we accept the authority of the Vedas?
Otherwise you're an atheist.
Because otherwise you're an atheist. Nastikyam. And Krishna says among the Brahminical qualities, one of them is astikyam. You never question Vedic authority. If you find somebody who is questioning Vedic authority, or it's not just Shruti Nindanam, but it's Shruti Shastra Nindanam bhi. Also, you have somebody who is denigrating or dismissing or downplaying the importance of the Shastras as well. Shastra meaning Smriti. What kind of Smriti? Any kind of Smriti. Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu is Smriti. Manu Smriti is also Smriti. And people like to take jabs at Manu because he is obstructing sense gratification. That's the main reason that people don't like Varnashram Dharma also. And it's the main reason that people don't want to accept gurus also. They get in the way of our plans and our desires. So, anyway, what were we saying? Shastra, Shruti, Shastra, Nindanam. Yeah, Prachandam Bodham. Shankaracharya, at least he wanted, okay, you at least come back and accept the Vedic authority, then we can call you Hindus. But he made a mess of Hinduism. It's kind of like we were talking last night that, there's different countries, you have to kind of adjust your preaching of Krishna consciousness, because in some ways, in some places, you're not allowed to say any of the things that Prabhupada says that talk about demoniac politicians, for example. You're not allowed to do that. In Thailand, for example, you can be, and people have been thrown in prison just for criticizing anything about the king. That's a so-called monarchy. But, communist governments work a little differently. They're just out-and-out dictators without any justification needed. It's just by force. So, yeah, you have to be a little careful about it there. But, if we follow those rules in those countries and we make plenty of devotees, but what kind of devotees will they be? This is the question. Do you see? Just like, what kind of Christians are they if they're eating, things that I don't even want to mention in this sacred precincts. And, so the idea is that we have to accept the authority of the Vedas, otherwise we change the trajectory of our sampradaya. And that's not usually something that you want to have on your karmic portfolio when you have to have your interview with Yamaraj. So, Srila Prabhupada is constantly warning us, Gurur Avajñā. What does Gurur Avajñā mean? At best, to neglect the orders of the spiritual master. At worst, it is to criticize the spiritual master. And people do that. We can name one who lives in Bangalore and who has become very famous and rich now and powerful. But, one of my friends who's an astrologer said, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes at the time of death. So, anyway, Kaivalyam navanitaharam anaharam bhuvanaharam. The Lord is able to take care of these people. He eats these people also, just like all the Kaurava soldiers on the battle of Kurukshetra. This is what Arjuna saw. So sometimes we have to see such things. We have to see such things. Arjuna didn't have to see it. Arjuna was already a pure devotee. But, just to dispel our doubts, we have to understand what is the power of the Supreme Lord. Here the word is used in these commentaries, prabhava. Ishvara prabhava rupena kalena. The Lord is acting. He's showing his potency through this time factor. And time eats everything. all these worlds in addition. So whether you can surrender to him in love and appreciate that this adorable boy is eating dirt, or whether you surrender by force to the time factor and he's eating the whole world up as well, you have no say in the matter. You have no say in the matter. You just have to surrender. This is the point. I think Prabhupada is also in his purport. What does he say here? Anyway, so yeah, we surrender to Krishna. This is our position. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, this verse explains that time divides up the universe, but the energy of the Lord Maya, by the energy of the Lord Maya, this universe is established firmly, samsthitam. Its cause is the Lord. It is divided by time, a form of the Lord's influence. That's how he's translating the term prabhava here. Ishwarena prabhavena. Now, the word divided here means that it is divided variously as described above. Parichinnam. I don't think that's in today's verse, is it? Yes, it is. Ishwarena parichinnam kalena. And kalena is described as avyakta murtina, the impersonal form of the Lord's power. So, etavad iti paricheda vishayikritam avyakta murtir. Yasya iti swato nirvisheshata darshata. All right, so this is a few things we can think about that come from the commentaries. I've skipped Madhvacharya's commentary on this verse because not only is Madhvacharya notoriously terse and difficult to understand, but he's quoted extensively from the Saukarayana Shruti, and I did not have time to research that. So those of you who are just really, really concerned about this, you can look all that up for yourself, but maybe we should stop here and ask if there's any questions or comments. 8:42. So, Prabhu Vishnu Chitta has a burning question.
We're speaking of Vedic authority, and so this verse comes from Shruti, Smriti, Puranadi, Pancharatra. So, the Pancharatras, they're agamas?
Yes.
And where does the agama fall within the Vedic authority or pramanas? Yeah. And what is the exact difference between the, because the Shaivas, they have their agamas.
Yes, and they're non-Vedic.
And so I've not been able to clearly understand this.
Well, we say that these things are, we say Shruti and Smriti. You cannot place it as Shruti because it's not Shruti. There's two things. There's Nigama and Agama. Nigama means the Shruti itself. Agama means non-Shruti things that are also Shastras, or scriptures. English is a more vague term. So the Pancharatras, and there are several agamas like this. You have to classify them as smritis, but they're not really smritis either. But they are coming from sages, just like the shrutis do, for that matter, also. So they're accepted, they're accommodated, they're even very prominent. Most of Hindu practice, orthopraxis nowadays, it's coming from Puranas and from Smritis and from Agamas as well. So it's authoritative, but in certain sectors, they will not be recognized that much. For example, even among these, what do you call those people? Arya Samaj. They don't even accept the authority of the Puranas, what to speak of the Agamas. They don't even accept the Puranas as Smriti literature. because they don't accept Smriti. This is how Raghupati Upadhyaya could say such things as Shrutamat apare smritamitere bharatamanye bhajandu bhavabhitaha. Some people are fearing material existence and they may follow the Mahabharata very strictly because Mahabharata is a mine of practical information if you want to know how to act and not to act. Ramayana also. And other people are following the Smritis very strictly. What do we call people who follow the Smritis very strictly? Smartas. And Shruti is these Arya Samaj people and others who are Shankara and his followers, they're only concerned with the Shrutis. So, of course, that's not Raghupati Upadhyaya's ecstasy, but yeah, you have different classes of Vedic literature, and some of them will be respected more universally, and some of them will be respected less universally. Puranas are pretty safe with everybody. Vedas are inviolable. Everybody has to accept them, otherwise you're not talking about Hinduism. In the same way that the authority of Guru Sadhu comes from Shastra, so in the same way the authority of Shastra comes from Shruti. We say Shabda Praman practically means for us Guru Sadhu Shastra Vakya Chitete Kori Aikya. No? So Guru is not a guru. Prabhupada says in Madhya Lila chapter 20, text 352, if I'm not mistaken. Guru is not a guru if he's not repeating what the Shastra says. He should not be respected as a guru. Prabhupada says that clearly, explicitly. Similarly, the sadhu is not a sadhu if he's not accepting and repeating what the Shastra says. That means that the real source of authority is the Shastra, especially the Shruti, but also the Smriti for us. Different schools accept different degrees of Smriti authority or Pancharatric authority. Like you said, I think it's the, what is that group? They wear the little Lingayatas. Mm-hmm. So they, they don't follow any of this stuff. They have their own thing. A little bit like in Vrindavan, you have people who just, they don't care the least for the Shastras. They just have their founder's poetry, and that's what they go by. That's their Shastra. So anyway, what was I saying about this? Now I've lost my train of thought. But
well, I mean, you were explaining. First, you began by Nigama and Agama.
Agama, and then you have this Agamas. Different Agamas are accepted by different Vaishnavas and mainly Vaishnavas. So, yeah, it's also called Tantra in the Srīmad Bhāgavatam, Pancharatra. And that's why pujaris are sometimes called Tantris. You've heard this. So, they're good in this kind of ritual stuff. So, yeah. Knotted Pancharatra is there, especially for us. And we find so much ritual is discussed in the knotted Pancharatra, tons and tons of it.
So, then in the Shruti, I've heard the Yajurveda, for instance, specifically speaks about rituals of
yes, also. Yes, correct.
And so, what are those rituals compared to? Are those agamas?
No.
They're not
Shrutis,
agamas.
Shruti is always Shruti. But Shruti rituals is mainly sacrifice, Vedic sacrifice. There's three, you read the 11th canto about deity worship. Krishna discusses 3 levels of deity worship that we can do. One of them is Vedic, another one is Pancharatric, another one is, I think, Puranic. I don't remember now exactly what he said, but there's different levels. Vedic sacrifice is one thing. Just like when we worship the Shalagram Shila, we're chanting the Purusha Sukta, and that's from the 10th mandala of the Rig Veda. So that's purely Vedic puja. But we're also offering mantras like, what is that for the incense?
Idam dupam idam.
Yeah, I know. There's a particular Vanaspati Sotpanno Gandhajiganda Uttamaha Agrehya Sarvadevanam Dhupoyam Pratagrihdam Esha Dhupa Samarapayami Klim Krishnaya Namah. So this is an example of a Pancharatric mantra. and some of them are mixed. That's what he says. These are the three categories: Vedic and tantric and mixed.
And
We just had an argument with not argument, but we had an in-depth discussion with all the pandas in Jagannath Puri. They follow very mixed mode of worship, very, very mixed. Very difficult even for us to understand because they use different authorities than we use. Yeah. Sri Vaishnavas also, some of them are following Vaikanas Agama, some of them are following Pancharatra Agama. They're different. But everybody has to follow something.
And I've heard that the Madhva style of worship is more based on Shruti than it is on...
I would not be surprised, but I don't know this. Krishna Kshetra Maharaj would be able to answer that kind of thing. Yeah, I would not be surprised because they're very big on the Vedas on that side. In fact, this is why Madhvacharya in his commentary on this verse, he's quoting extensively from the Saukarayana Shruti. Now Madhva's idiosyncrasy is he's quoting from Shastras that nobody else knows about. And, so you can't really, there's no check and balance system there. You just have to take what he says at face value. But there's a big long quote here from Saukarayana Shruti. Anybody familiar with that? I don't know also. But so these are different levels of authority. Pancharatras. I mean, if you really are constrained to place it with one of these two categories of Shruti Smriti, you can say it's a Smriti. But Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, they don't do that. They say it as you quoted. Shruti Smriti Purana Adi Pancharatra Vidhin Vina. So they recognize there's a Shruti, Smriti, including Puranas, and then there's a Pancharatra also. So it looks like three categories to me. Yeah.
And is it also true that the Pancharatra was actually spoken initially by Narayana to Lakshmi Devi over 5 nights?
Well, these Pancharatras are coming from different persons in different times, places, and there's at least 20 of them or so, as far as I recall.
Wow.
But Srila Prabhupada makes it very clear that for us, the Nadad Pancharatra is the most authoritative, if only because Nadad Munis are, Mula Guru or Adi Guru. So, yeah. Nadad Pancharatra is a very prominent part of Srila Prabhupada's books. That's why anyone who is a sincere disciple of Srila Prabhupada and has faith in what he says, then when they're presented with evidence from Nadad Pancharatra, they should accept it. And people don't always do that. For the same reason that people don't always follow their Varnashram Dharmas and don't always listen to their gurus. Therefore, it has to be said in Padma Purana, Guru Ardavagnya. So, anything else? There's so much more that could be said, but as I said, I didn't have time to prepare for this. So, all right. So then we'll stop here. Ladies, nobody? No. All right. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
His Grace Mukunda-Datta Prabhu ki jai.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.